Okay, students. Today we'll start with model 3. Okay. So this model 3 is also theory 1. In this particular model, we will be learning about the codal guidelines for an earthquake design, and you will also be learning we will also be studying about the behavior of masonry during the earthquakes. Okay. Therefore, the course outcome of this particular model is, after successful learning of this model, you will be able to understand, or you will be able to describe what are the codal provisions for earthquake resistance design, and you will also be able to describe a behavior of a masonry structure during an earthquake event. Okay. So in that first topic, what we have is structural configuration for earthquake resistant design. Write the headline. There are several factors which we need to take into consideration for making a structure earthquake resistant. Okay, with respect to the configuration, I'm telling. Okay, there are several parameters related to the configuration of a building to make it as an earthquake resistant structure. Okay, and several parameters associated with this structural configuration are listed here. You can see here. And that first one is the extreme height to depth ratio. Extreme height to depth ratio means the building having larger height. Okay, building is having larger height, but its dimension in the lateral direction will be very less. Okay, in that case, height to depth ratio will be more. When height to depth ratio is higher, obviously the building height will be higher. If the height to depth ratio is higher, what is the problem which we face normally? Okay, is high overturning forces, large drift, and foundation stability will be affected. Okay, these are all the things we will face if we provide a larger height to depth ratio. And what is the remedy also written? Revise the proportion, or we have to design for a special structural system. Special structural system means, in the previous class I have discussed, either by providing the bracings, either by giving the ductile detailing, okay, or by providing the shear walls. We need to compromise this structural stability. Okay. So in that first, in the first point of the structural configuration, extreme height to depth ratio is the main important parameter we need to take into consideration. If it is unavoidable condition, if you have to go for higher height, means larger height, means you need to provide some special structural system, okay, to strengthen the structure against earthquake load. Okay. The next parameter what we have is the extreme plan area. Extreme plan area means the plan of the building will be very larger, and it will be continuous plan. Okay, it will be a continuous plan like this. This is also not good for response, not good for earthquake resistant design. Okay, if a building or structure is having larger plan, what will happen is there will be more stresses induced in the diaphragm of the building. Diaphragm means the slab. Okay, we will be providing the continuous slab throughout the area. Okay, throughout the area. If you provide that much larger slab, then there will be more stress concentration or more deflection that will happen to the structure. Therefore, to avoid this, what we have to do is we have to give some thermal joint. Okay, thermal joint by dividing the whole plan into smaller areas like this. Here and there we need to provide thermal joint. Okay, or there should be a small gap, so that even there is some deflection, that deflection should be allowed for the structure. Okay, by doing that we can uh, reduce the effect of the earthquake on the structure. Okay, same thing is written here. Extreme plan area built up large diaphragm forces. Large diaphragm forces means the slab load. Okay, if an lateral load is added upon by acted on it, means it will create the large diaphragm forces. Okay, if it is a continuous thing, that is why the remedy is mentioned: subdivide building by seismic joints. Okay, just by giving joints, okay, means providing a small gap, you can reduce the effect of the earthquake force. Okay, next is extreme length to depth ratio. Extreme length to depth ratio. Extreme length to depth ratio is nothing but if L is the length, if L is the length, if D is the depth, if D is very small and length is very large, okay, if depth of one, if the dimension of the building on one direction is very large and in the transverse direction if it is very small, then L by D ratio, what you get? You will get very higher L by D ratio. In that case, what will happen is the building will have more earthquake resistance along the length of the beam. If the earthquake force acts along the length of the along the length of the structure or length of the plan, it will have more resistance. It will have more resistance. But if the same earthquake acts in the transverse direction, means in the other direction, it will have very less resistance. Okay, that is why the larger L by D ratio for the plan of the building should be avoided. Okay, there should be a smaller ratio between length and width of the beam, like this. Okay, if you provide a optimum ratio of L by D ratio for a building, then it will have good resistance against the earthquake. Okay, larger H by D also danger. Larger L by D is also danger parameter. Okay, these things should be maintained optimistically. Okay, that is about extreme length to depth ratio. The consequences of this providing this length to higher length to depth ratio is large differences in resistance of two axes. Two axes means just now I told you, if you consider two axes in x direction and y direction. Okay, okay, its resistance along one direction will be very high and along other direction will be very low. That is only the meaning here. Okay, large differences in resistance of two axes in both x and y direction. Then in that case also we need to subdivide the building by seismic joint. Okay, in this case also we need to subdivide the building into seismic joints. Okay, the screen is visible, right, for everyone, students?
Visible, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now the next parameter what we have is false symmetry. False symmetry means if building is having L shape, okay, or T shape or Y shape. This time it is not going. Okay, if the building is having L shape like this or T shape, okay, T shape like this or Y shape also, different shapes, so the U shape, okay, different shapes will be given for the plan. Okay, that is these are all the example for false symmetry. Okay, if you design a building which is having symmetric about both x and y axis, it is a symmetrical building. So false symmetry, let us see what is the effect of the false symmetry. Okay, the effect of false symmetry is main effect and dominant effect is torsion. Okay, torsion, why it occurs? Because it is not symmetrical. Okay, especially at the joints and all, there will be more rotational moments which will be caused to the building whenever the lateral force act upon it. Okay, there will be more torsion induced. As a result of that, there may be just a failure also. Therefore, in more as much as possible, the asymmetry means unsymmetrical conditions of the plans should be avoided. Okay, they should be avoided, because if you go for unsymmetrical plan, then there will be re-entrant corners. Okay, I will explain in detail about the re-entrant corners. Like this, the re-entrant corners will be developed at this corner only. The failure of the building will take place. Okay, at this junction only there will be more torsion induced. As a result of that, there may be appearance of the cracks. Okay, and deflection and buckling of the column, everything will takes place. Okay, so the effect of false symmetry is the torsion. Then what will be the remedy? Use frame with non-structural core walls. Okay, here wherever the walls are there, there you can go for the reinforcement, and by providing the ductile detailing at the columns and other RC elements like beams, you can avoid the failure of the structure, okay, which is having unsymmetrical condition. Okay. Next topic what we have is re-entrant corners. Okay, re-entrant corners. Just now I have explained, if you go for L shape or T shape, here at this corner the stress concentration will be more. As a result of that, there will be failure of the structure. Therefore, if you go for the building with re-entrant corners, so then there will be a torsion and stress concentration. Okay, and remedy is separate walls, uniform box, diagonal reinforcement. Just by going with the diagonal reinforcement, or either by giving some bracings, okay, at the corners, at the corner lengths, means along this direction and along another direction, by giving the bracings or by giving the extra reinforcement, okay, especially at the joints, we can avoid the failure of the structure. Okay, then mass eccentricity. Mass eccentricity, it is also a one of the parameter which will affect the performance of the building. Mass eccentricity means see, if you are going for some unsymmetric plan of a building, okay, then in that case the center of mass will be at some point, center of mass of the whole building will be at some point, and center of rigidity will also be at one point. Okay, if you are going for a symmetrical building, the center of mass, okay, center of gravity of mass, gravity of mass and CG of rigidity of the element will coincide if you are going for symmetric building. If you are going for asymmetric building or unsymmetric building, then the both will not coincide. In that case, again there will be a chances of torsion, stress concentration and failure. Okay, so that is only called as mass eccentricity. Okay, as you get different location for center of mass and center of rigidity, the distance between both the points is called as eccentricity. Okay, because of that eccentricity, there will be a torsion or stress concentration to the structure. Okay, and remedy for this is reprogram or add resistance around the mass. Okay, if there is high mass concentration at particular floor, in that case at that particular floor we have to make structural elements strong. Okay, we have to design for worst case. By doing that we can avoid the failure. The next parameter is soft story frame. What is the meaning of soft story? Have you heard of this? Soft story. Soft story means see, if you have seen the most of the apartments, in the ground floor there won't be any infill walls, but in the upper floor there will be infill walls, and the columns. Okay, so that the ground floor will have will not have any infill walls, but next coming floors will have infill walls. Okay, that is one of the example for soft storage. Soft storage, and one more example. Assume that there will be a continuous columns and beams at some particular floor. Okay, at some particular floor, if you provide one floating column like this, okay, one floating column like this on either side, then this will become soft storage. Okay, therefore and if you avoid one column here, okay, columns here, then this will become soft storage. Means difference in stiffnesses of each floor. Okay, difference in stiffnesses of floors will come into picture here. Okay, means the one particular storage will have very less stiffness. Okay, very less equivalent stiffness compared to the other storages. That condition what we call as soft storage. That this about this soft storage I will be discussing in detail in the next coming topic. And effect of this soft storage will be there. If you are going with a building which is having soft storage, it causes abrupt changes of stiffness at a point of discontinuity. Okay, it will see if you are going soft storage like this. See if you are avoiding one column in some particular floor, here you will get discontinuous column, and even if you are giving one extra column at some point, it is also a discontinuous column. In this case, because of this continuity, there will be discontinuity in the stiffness of the column. Okay, there will be discontinuity in the stiffness of the column, which will result the failure of the structure. To avoid this, the remedy is the adding bracings or adding columns. Okay. The next is variation in column stiffness. Variation in column stiffness means if you are giving different cross section of the column at different floors, okay, or if you are going with uneven numbers of columns at each and every floor. For example, if at one particular floor, okay, if you are given at one particular floor, if you are given around 10 columns in another floor, so you might have given 8 columns or 9 columns. Okay, in that case you will get variation in resultant stiffness of the column between the story. Okay, this will also lead to the effect to the structure or performance of the structure, that is causes abrupt changes of stiffness. Okay, much higher forces in column stiffer columns. The columns which are stiffer will be acted upon by higher forces. Okay, for this we have to redesign the structural system to balance the stiffness. We need to make the redesign. Then weak column, strong beam concept. See, this is also one of the important parameter which affects the performance of the building. If there is a column frame given in the building, see if the beams are very strong, okay, but the columns are weak, what will happen? If a lateral force is applied, no problem. As the beams are strong, they will easily handle the force, and that force will be transferred to the columns. Okay, but the column which we have designed is weak, then obviously it will undergo deflection. Okay, it will undergo deflection. Therefore, most of the times we will go for strong column, weak beam concept. Okay, we will go for weak beam, strong column concept. Weak beam is the role of the beam is just to transfer the load. Okay, just to transfer the load, but it will be transferred to the column. Anyway, finally the column has to engage the total load. Okay, including the weight of the beam and including the gravity loads which are coming on the beam, and including the effect of lateral force. All the things should be handled by columns. That is why weak column and strong beam will affect the performance of the structure. Therefore, most of the times we'll go for weak beam strong column design. Okay. Then building separation. Building separation means there is sometimes if the two buildings are situated at very small distance apart. In that case, during the earthquake event, there may be chances of uh, bonding between the both the buildings. Okay, if two buildings are located very adjacent to each other, okay, very adjacent to each other, during earthquake shaking, because of the deflection of the building, one building may hit the other building like this. Okay, it may hit other building like this. Okay, in this case, what will happen? Even though the neighbor building is able to handle the earthquake forces, okay, even if it is strong enough to handle the earthquake forces, because of this pounding of the neighbor building to it, it will also undergo failure along with the neighboring building. Okay, therefore sufficient gap should be maintained. Okay, sufficient gap should be maintained. Okay. So this is about the different uh, problems associated with the configuration of the structure, different parameters associated with the configuration of the structure, and problems faced with these configurations and remedies. Okay, I hope you got some idea on this. The next important topic what we have is plan irregularity, vertical irregularity. Okay. About this plan irregularity in the codebook, it is clearly explained. What I have done is, instead of copying or instead of writing the same things in the notes, so just I mentioned. I have given clear-cut guidelines where all these topics are covered. You need to refer table 4, page number 18 of IS 1893 codebook. Okay. And relative diagrams also given in page number 19 and 20. I'll just open that now. If it is given in the examination, you can refer the code book. Okay. Write the headline as plan irregularity. Okay. You try to write these. Write the headline as plan irregularity. Okay. Here you can see in table number 4, all the plan irregularities are given. Torsional irregularity, re-entered corners, diaphragm discontinuity, out of plane offsets, non-parallel systems. Okay, these are all the plan irregularities. You write these diagrams, okay, for 3 minutes. Are you writing, students? Actually, what has happened is I have got an event to attend. It is an important event. I would have attended it because no one is there for alternate arrangement of the class. That's why I have to manage on both the sides. That's why I was into joining that particular event. Okay, I'll continue. The plan irregularities. See here in this table 4 about plan irregularities, it is clearly explained. Okay, in that I think 5 types will come: torsional irregularity, re-entrant corners, diaphragm discontinuity, out of plane offsets, and non-parallel systems. Okay, in that first one we will discuss torsional irregularity. Torsional irregularity. See here it is clearly mentioned, page number, table number. Okay, if it is a class number also mentioned. Okay, table number 4, page number 18. Okay, of IS code book, 1893 code book. That first one is torsional irregularity. With respect to all these irregularities, the corresponding diagrams are given here in page number 19 and 20. Okay. See, if it is given in the examination for each and every type of irregularity, you need to write respected diagrams. Okay, respective diagrams, and you need to give the explanation. Okay. If it is asked to write about, if you are writing torsional irregularity, relative diagram you write and you explain about the torsional irregularity. Similarly, you have to do for all the types of irregularities. Okay. Now let us discuss in detail about the torsional irregularity. Okay, torsional irregularity. As I said, when you are going for unsymmetrical shapes or unsymmetrical plan of the building, then there will be torsion induced into the building during the earthquake event. Because of the torsion, there will be failure of the structure. Okay. Now there is a condition to consider a building is with torsional irregularity. Okay. For that, the clear-cut guideline is given in the code book. Here you can go through it. To be considered when floor diaphragms are rigid in their own plan in relation to the vertical structural elements that resist the lateral forces. Okay. To be considered when floor diaphragms are rigid in their own plan in relation to the vertical structural elements that resist the lateral forces. This is also one of the case in case of torsional irregularity. Even the building is regular in shape. Okay, regular in shape. If if stiffness of these diaphragms are more, okay, compared to the vertical elements, in that case also there will be chances of undergoing twisting of the building, or there will be chances of inducing torsion in the structure. In that case also the building is considered to be a building with torsional irregularity. That is first condition. Second condition is torsional irregularity to be considered. Torsional irregularity should be considered to exist when the maximum storage drift computed with design eccentricity, okay, at one end of the structure, okay, transfers to an axis is 1.2 times the average the storage drifts at the two ends of the structure. Okay, for this the figure is given. Just to refer to the figure here. Here a building is taken. Okay, a building is taken here. Because of torsion, there is some twisting of the building. Okay, there is some twisting of the building. Okay, on one side the deflection of the building is delta 1, on the other side deflection of the building is delta 2. Okay, on one side the deflection is delta 1 and on the other side deflection is delta 2. Here you can see the torsional irregularity to be considered to exist when the maximum storage drift computed with design eccentricity at one end of the structure transfers to an axis is more than 1.2 times average of the storage drifts at the two ends of the structure. Okay, if delta, if you calculate the average of these two deflections, okay, if you calculate average of these two deflections, that is delta 1 plus delta divided by 2. Okay, delta 1 plus delta 2 divided by 2, you will get some value. Okay, you will get some value. With reference to that value, he has given the guideline. You can see that if that value is greater than 1.2 times, okay, whatever the delta 1 individual delta 1 and delta 2 value are there, no? If this delta 2 or the delta 1, if you take this delta 2 value, if you take this delta 2 value, if you assume average of delta 1 and delta 2 as delta 3, okay, delta 1 plus delta 2 divided by 2 is equal to, if you assume it as delta 3, if this delta 3, okay, if you compare this delta 1 or delta 2 value with delta 3, if this delta value is, if delta 2 value is greater than 1.2 times delta 3 or delta 1 is less than 1.2 delta 3, then it is, that building is considered as a torsional building. That is only given here. You can see computed with design eccentricity at one end of the structure transfers to an axis is more than 1.2 times the average of the story drift. Okay, if we consider average delta 1 plus delta 2 divided by 2, that value if you compare it with the delta 2, if delta 2 is more than 1.2 times the delta 3, which is the average value, then it is considered to have torsional irregularity. Okay, understood, students? That is about the torsional irregularity. Next is re-entrant corners. This I have already discussed in the previous topic. Re-entrant corners, in case of re-entrant corners, the plan configuration of a structure and its lateral force resisting system contain re-entrant corners. When it contains, when it is having a irregular plan, okay, when it is having a irregular plan like this, L or T, okay, L or T or Y shape, okay, or U shape, like this. These kind of buildings will have re-entrant corners like here. Okay, these corners what we call as re-entrant corners. Okay, because of that re-entrant corners, there will be torsion induced in the structure. Plan configuration of a structure, okay, and its lateral force resisting system contain re-entrant corners, where both projection of the structure beyond the re-entrant corner are greater than 15% its plan dimension in the given direction. Okay, so when we call a building having re-entrant corners, this is the condition. You just go through it. When the plan configuration of a structure and its lateral force resisting system contain re-entrant corners, where both projection of the structure beyond the re-entrant corner are greater than 15% of the plan dimension. For this, he has given the figure. I think if you see the figure, you will be able to understand it properly. Here you can see. See, here we have a L-shaped building. Okay, here we have a L-shaped building. Here we have the re-entrant corner. Okay, re-entrant corner. From this re-entrant corner to the end of the building, we have distance A. Here it is mentioned. From this point to this point, the distance is A. Okay. If this distance is whatever the distance from the re-entrant corner A, okay, that if that distance is greater than 15% of this total length, okay, if it is greater than 15% of this total length, then it is said to have re-entrant corners. Understood? If A is equal to 0.15 L, if A is greater than 0.15 L or ratio of A to L is greater than 0.15, then it is considered as re-entrant corner. Understood? If this projection length is there, no, projection length A, if this projection length is greater than 15% of the total length, okay, greater than 15% of the total length, then the building is said to have reentrant corners. Here we have a T section, you can see, where A is the distance of the reentrant corner from the end of the structure. If this length A is greater than 15% of the overall length, then it is said to have reentrant corners. Here we have a plus kind of a plan of the structure. In this case also, if A by L exceeds 0.15, then it is said to have reentrant corners. Here also you can see, here in both x direction and y direction it has got reentrant corners. If A1 is, okay, length A1 is more than 15% of the L1, then it is considered as reentrant corners in the horizontal direction. If A2 is more than 15% of the L2, then also it is considered as reentrant corner. Okay. This is about the reentrant corner and guidelines for the building with reentrant corner. Next is diaphragm discontinuity. What is the meaning of diaphragm discontinuity? Diaphragm discontinuity means what? Diaphragm, what the word diaphragm represents, it is nothing but the stiffness, the equivalent stiffness of the story. Okay, diaphragms with abrupt discontinuities of variation in stiffness, okay, including those having cutout or open areas greater than 50% of the gross enclosed diaphragm area, then it is called as diaphragm discontinuity. If you take the school plans and all, what will be the shape there? Usually like this, right? Okay, surrounding there will be slab, but here there will be gap at the center. Okay, here you can see there will be discontinuity in the slab. Okay, if this gap is greater than, if this gap is greater than 50% of the gross area, then it is called as diaphragm discontinuity. Okay, for this you can see the figure here for diaphragm discontinuity. Here you can see the opening. Okay, there is a building floor. Okay, there is a building floor. In that building floor there is a opening. Openings, usually those openings will be provided for the staircase, wherever the staircases are there, wherever the lifts are there. Okay, in some plants there will be a purposeful opening for providing the proper ventilation, even in case of apartment plants and all. If these kind of openings, okay, are more than 50% of the total diaphragm, then it is said to have diaphragm discontinuity. Okay, it is not only with respect to the slab opening, it is with respect to the stiffness also. As I said in the beginning, see here we have 1 2 3 1 2 3 4-story building. 4-story building we have in all the floors. Okay, each and every floor have some equivalent stiffness. Okay, each and every floor will have some equivalent stiffness. If there is large difference between equivalent stiffness between each floor or the successive floor, then also it is considered as diaphragm discontinuity. Okay, diaphragm discontinuity is not, it is not only with respect to the wall opening, the slab opening, it is with respect to the equivalent stiffness also. Okay, so this is about diaphragm discontinuity. The next thing is out of plane offsets. Out of plane offsets. In case of out of plane offsets, the discontinuity is in a lateral force resistance path, such as out of plane offsets of vertical elements. See, just before I explained about the soft story, no, that is the example for out of story offset. Here you can see. Here, if you take a shear wall, example of a shear wall, this shear wall, it is continuous up to here, but it is discontinuous at here. But if you take another wall there, below it is continuous. After that, below it is a soft story. It is not restrained by the lateral walls, but above it is restrained by lateral walls. Okay, that is why it is considered as out of plane offsets. Okay, in this case also, because of soft story effect, there will be uh, effect to the building during the earthquake event. The last one is non-parallel systems. The vertical elements resisting the lateral force are not parallel or symmetric about major orthogonal axis or lateral force resisting elements. This is also come under the asymmetric plan. For this, I think yes, here asymmetric plan. Here you can see a plan of a building which is asymmetric. If you draw an axis, x-axis, okay, then it is not symmetric about both x-axis and y-axis. In this case also, there will be a torsion induced in the system. Because of torsion, there will be more stress concentration at the structural elements, which may lead to the failure of the building. Okay, that is why it is called as non-parallel systems. The vertical elements resisting the lateral force are not parallel to or symmetric about major orthogonal axis. See, if you have a plan of the building like this, why this kind of plan is there? Because of there may be the side, due to side conditions, side may be of this shape only. Okay, to utilize the full side dimension, people may go for these kind of plans. Okay, in this case, what will happen is here, if you just look into the alignment of the column, here it will be purely in vertical direction, it will be in inclined condition. In this case, both the structural elements will not be parallel to each other. They will not be parallel to each other, which will lead to the effect to the building. Okay, so this is about the non-parallel systems. Okay, this is about the discussion on plan irregularity. Uh, Vertical irregularity is there, that I will discuss in the next class. Okay. I'll take the attendance. Abu Bakar